Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 34th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. In this episode, I decided to examine the topic of 5G, as it's a topic that comes back all the time in spiritual circles, various channelings. So I just wanted to give it a shot and see what comes up. So, the first thing to say is that just like for my first coronavirus video, there are multiple levels of analysis. And again, it's this idea that there isn't a single truth or interpretation of what 5G will do to you or will do to humans. There are trends, there may be tendencies, there may be certain general effects. But what is always most important, in my view, is always the big picture and the individual or personal. And the individual is very interesting. For instance, what kind of fears does it spark in your mind? How do you live this transition? What does it awaken? For instance, this idea that we want to communicate more and more, faster and faster. Everything has to be faster and faster. What does that bring up in you? Does it awaken your thirst for silence and a certain solitude? In one of my videos, I think it was the transition for 3D to 5D, I was saying that ultimately everything is symbolic, and telecommunications are just a symbolic representation for telepathy. So the ability to communicate from brain to brain. And we use an external kind of tool to be able to learn how to use telepathy responsibly once we acquire that ability. So it's like training wheels on the side of bikes. Training wheels. The same as 3D printing is training wheels for manifesting things with your thoughts. Like, for instance, you decide to 3D print a gun. Well, it's the same as conjuring a gun out of thin air and shooting someone. Imagine if you had that capacity somewhere in the future. And that's why there's always a sort of the delay between the moment you want something and the moment where you get it is shrinking. So if you look at before, you had landlines, and it wasn't sure that you would be able to reach someone before making a call. You really had to think about it because it was costing money. Now telecommunications are very cheap, especially with the internet, so you can call anybody on a whim. And so the moment between the moment where you want something and you get it is shrinking. And that is just for us to sort of learn what the consequences of those are. Being continuously, for instance, stressed that someone's going to call you, someone's going to send a message, always checking your phone, always checking and updating your messages. And that stress is something that humanity needs to experience, because imagine if one day we developed the capacity of telepathy, how much more stressed you would be that anyone can ping you inside your brain at any moment, all the time. That's nuts in terms of invasiveness. At least the phone, you can leave it somewhere, you can turn it off. But telepathy, and so we're living these experiences so that one day when we do acquire certain abilities, we'll use them responsibly. We will not be pinging anyone or using telepathy just on a whim. It'll really be to communicate something meaningful. That's also one of the experiences, not only stress, but too much information. So how would you say that? Information obesity? I don't know. Information overload, that's it. Information overload with very little valuable information and a lot of crap. All of those are necessary experiences. Now, 5G is just the um, latest form that this takes on all shrinking the amount of time between what you want and what you get. Because now you can get HD movies, you can get, you'll be able to have more and more face-to-face conversations. Maybe 5G will even be able to have VR live chats where you can meet anyone in VR in real time, their actual avatar or their actual somebody looking just like them with a sort of facial recognition or mapping or whatnot. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the big picture. Then there's also the big picture in terms of not just these aspects, but also a sort of the way that we've organized. This nice channel that I also follow. If you had the time to catch that notification, maybe I'll turn off my Wi-Fi so it doesn't bother me. So one other thing that we're learning via using these technologies is the consequences of a purely materialistic viewpoint of the world, where everything is just solid matter, and these waves. Many of these scientists, they don't even believe. They're not even motivated to do any tests because they just say, well, how could it even affect us? I mean, okay, sure, if you put your head in a microwave, obviously you're fry it, but they only look at heat, energy effects. So basically, they just say, okay, if the waves are a bit too powerful, a bit too energetic, then your body heats to a certain temperature, whatever, the water boils, and then that's very dangerous. But I mean, otherwise, if it just offsets the temperature of your body by 0.1 degrees or something, who cares? And that is the consequences of looking at the world through a materialistic lens, not understanding that actually everything is a vibration and your body receives and sends information all the time from the outside in the forms of information that we give a form to. We give a form to as a car rushing towards you, or as a bullet coming your way, or plenty of different things. And actually, is just information. It's just like vibrations saying, well, the car is like saying the entire. I'm really crap at drawing, but let's say that the car, the sum total of every single vibration of every single constitutive part of the car is saying um, to the information in your body and everything that it's constituted of, um, you should die because of this and this and this factor. It's all just information exchange underneath everything. And then we create an interface and we give things form so that it's more convenient, because otherwise it would just be, it's like this car is sending ones and zeros um, to your body, and you're sending some back saying, okay, you've run into me, so you should deform in this way, and I hit you, and so your body has to deform and have this kind of change in its structure. So it's all just information exchange, and then it's like all these layers of reality basically adapt. Like the vibration in your atoms change, then your atoms adapt to their structure, then the molecules um, adapt their structure, and then the molecules adapt the structure, so the living cells adapt their structure, and then the living cells adapt their structure, and your tissues, your muscles and your bones and everything adapt their structure, and then your body basically disintegrates. So that's the way that it works, not the other way around. We're just seeing the consequences of information communication and adaptation of the interaction between information and waves and energy and vibration that then transforms each layer until it manifests as a form that we can understand and comprehend and conveniently interact with. Looking at things under this aspect would drive anyone crazy, just like looking at just the underlying code in your computer would drive anyone crazy as well. So, all of this to say that 5G, if you want to look at a big picture of why it may be not be such a good idea, I like Rupert Sheldrake's um, theory about morphogenic field. So go and check it out. It's not perfect, but any theory is actually valid. It's just it's not that it's more or less true. I mean, like Newtonian science has been proven to be false, but it's not false. It's just any theory is always incomplete. It's just that it enables you to explain more and more and experience more and enlarges your experience within infinity. And so, morphogenic fields is just the next step in my mind to make the bridge between pure materialism and something where you acknowledge that there is a vibrational reality, an element with a touch of spirituality, but without going full blown, mystical and theological. So it's a very nice theory, again, as the next evolutionary step in our understanding of reality to enlarge our experience within infinity without breaking it, without like saying, okay, I'm not this body, I'm leaving and I'm going into wherever. It's just like this incremental progress, and it will also be, of course, replaced by something more more expansive in terms of the experience that it allows in time. So, morphogenic fields. The idea that basically our DNA is only a tiny part of the information, and that every DNA is more like almost like a tuning fork, like a sort of um, a code to download from a field the information that you need for your species to give all the information about how to rebuild your body, how to fight off all the innate, so-called innate reflexes, how to heal your body, the immune system, all of those things, all of that information is not stored in the DNA. The DNA is just saying it's almost like a reference in a library to find a book. You have like a code here saying, I don't know, L9566732 or something, just so you're able to find the book in an infinitely vast library of information. And so each species sort of has its own morphogenic field. So humanity is connected to what Carl Jung would call the collective unconscious, and which Rupert Sheldrake calls this morphogenic field, is connected to this field of information which contains the entire experience of every single human that has lived before you, kind of, in one way or another, and which allows you to tune into that morphogenic field and then download whatever information you need to, I don't know, repair a torn muscle, or have certain reflexes to protect you in case a spider attacks you, or a snake, or whatever, all of these fears of certain animals, for instance. And so the DNA that you have is just like a key to say, oh, for the eyes, go and look in that volume for building the entire eye. It's not all contained in the DNA. The DNA is more like an access key. And of course, all of this is vibrational. So the DNA is like a vibrational key that goes and download vibrations or information from a field as vibrations. Now, that field is most probably tuned to be in resonance with the natural frequency of the Earth, which is the Schumann resonance, which, by the way, is undergoing tremendous change. And that's a sign that Earth is evolving. But what I mean is, since all life has been always exposed to these waves from time immemorial, since life began, then just think about it as this Schumann resonance as a sort of a symphony or an orchestra that everybody's listening to for like this life is listening to for like whatever 2 billion years or something, since the first living cell emerged. And this symphony is actually on top of this is built, all those morphogenic fields are built, which resonate according to the same frequency to be in harmony with this Schumann resonance. So it's like the Schumann resonance is almost like say the tuning, the sort of underlying tuning mechanism or agreement for encoding information. Then, just like when people agree to use 440 hertz as the reference A in modern day orchestras, in order for all players to be able to play in tune, the Schumann resonance is almost like a reference for the morphogenic fields to be able to exist and coexist in harmony with that which the Earth naturally provides as a frequency. It's like a tuning fork. Now, if on top of these frequencies that are there, you start piling up towers and things that emit signals which are out of tune with the Schumann resonance, out of tune. So they're playing a different kind of melody. Then the end effect is, for instance, a difficulty in accessing information from your respective morphogenic field. So some people claim that 5G, for instance, prevents cell regeneration and all these things. And that, to a certain extent, that's how it is explained. Because if your cells get all of that data and information not contained within them, but they actually tune into that data from a morphogenic field, which is aligned on the Schumann frequency, and then you have more and more sort of noise, background noise, that disturbs the cells being able to listen or tune in to the information they need to be able to do their jobs, then you see a gradual degradation of the physical body. That's the end result. So just to give another metaphor, it's like if you were sitting in a room and you were listening to a concert of one orchestra, and then at the same time you were listening to another orchestra which was tuned in 428.3 hertz. And try to see how that would sound, and how the experience of listening to both of those would be for you. I mean, you can concentrate a lot in trying to isolate what this orchestra is playing, but it's going to be hard and it's going to be painful. And you can just try it at home. Just put one speaker playing one thing and then put another speaker playing something else, tuned down or up, which is not in tune with the other one, and see what the experience is like. Now, of course, materialists will completely deny that your cells, because they don't even buy into this morphogenic field thing. I mean, they think that everything is within, everything, all the information that a cell needs to do its job is in its DNA, and that's it. But if you look at how intelligent our body is daily, and all the things that it does, and the trillions and trillions of chemical reactions and stuff that's happening in your body daily, then saying that all the information is in just the DNA and that's all, it's just insane. It's insane. And it's as insane as saying that all of the creative power that humanity has, all of this inspiration that we have, everything is just, or even consciousness is all within. It's all locked in this little machine that is the brain, and it's just a computer. So I hope that was clear on why 5G may not be that such a good idea. But there's a but. I've heard a channeling which was really interesting, where it was explained that basically even 5G is not a good idea. It has a kind of a higher purpose or meaning, and it is to prepare humanity for a time where we will not have the magnetic shield of the Earth, and we will have to be resilient to radiations and information basically coming from the outside that is now bounced off the Earth thanks to its magnetic field. So if the magnetic field stops, then there's a whole lot of other radiation and information that starts coming through, and that we are not prepared to integrate. And it's the same effect as 5G, basically. It's exactly the same effect. It's like we are tuned into Gaia's information and ways into this morphogenic field. And in order to be resilient and sort of prepare our bodies to be able to tune into that morphogenic field, even though we are bombarded by other information, is important. And 5G is not a good idea because it's the same basically as saying, let's develop our immune system by just bombarding us with diseases, not vaccines, mind you, the actual disease. And then you'll say, well, sure, that's one way of developing immunity in humans, but it's pretty barbaric and many people will die. But then this higher purpose is simply saying that since humanity is stuck in a materialist, predominantly for the moment, materialist mindset, then the only way to prepare us, given our level of collective consciousness, is through this very barbaric kind of means, because we're just not conscious enough to be able to learn or prepare ourselves in a conscious way. That is, oh, we know the magnetic shield is going to give in maybe at some point, and we know of all this vibrational reality and the morphogenic fields, and therefore we'll prepare a sort of labs in hospitals where people can go an hour a day or every week for an hour and prepare their bodies slowly for this process in a very humane and controlled way. Well, because we don't have that level of consciousness, 5G is basically like throwing us in the water and saying, just swim with all the pains and casualties and deaths that are related to that. But so what I'm trying to say is that there's never a simple answer of it's good, it's evil, it's bad, it's this, it's that. There's just so many levels of analysis here. And this is all from, right now is all talking from a higher perspective, but still, now let's go really full individual, which is also very interesting, is that ultimately your sets of beliefs and even your body and your cells, because Gaia is changing its vibration, it's also changing the vibrations and the morphogenic fields and everything of all life on Earth into what people call a higher vibration. I'll just say a different vibration, because higher in our understanding implies better, implies more evolved, implies all of this, where in infinity there is not that distinction. It's just all an experience, and it's sort of a continuous experience. It's just that there's certain thresholds that you need to go through along your experience. But anyways, let's just say it's higher vibration for the fact that everybody's using those terms. But your beliefs change your vibration. So imagine if every single person is like a crystal cup or a crystal yeah crystal glass. Sorry, did you even say that? I don't know. You know that if you expose a crystal to a certain sound wave that enters into resonance with it, it can break. But imagine if that crystal could change its internal molecular structure or atomic structure to be able to change the frequency at which it is sensitive to this radiation. And then suddenly, what used to affect it doesn't affect it anymore. And so, indeed, for those that have, I wouldn't say worked a lot, because I mean there's this idea that you're better than others, but for those that have gone through an internal change and have started to initiate this process of transitioning from a materialist beliefs to something higher, you're also changing the structure of your body inevitably, because the information of who you are is no longer the same. You don't think of yourself as just a sack of meat and bones. Suddenly you allow for another layer or another dimension of who you are to be added on top of that. And so um, you shouldn't worry too much about what 5G is going to do to you in that particular instance. But still, this is just a very simplistic sort of image about 5G, because ultimately 5G is information, and all information is going to affect you. It's just that, let's say, to give another example, if you are this wave and 5G is this wave, then you should worry, because be canceling each other out. If you are this wave and 5G is this wave, then you're okay. I mean, there's going to be some exchange of information here, but it's not going to be necessarily detrimental, you see? And so, what I mean here is that it's not that you're not going to be affected by 5G. Of course, you're going to be affected. It's just that the information exchange is not going to be negative per se, or the end result, or you're not going to necessarily um, um, experience it as a negative. Maybe 5G will stir up certain things in you, for instance, certain leftover materialist blockages or beliefs, for instance, certain fears that you still need to put into your to bring to your conscious awareness, or plenty of different things. Everyone is going to live through this implementation of 5G in their own unique way. Now, the last thing I wanted to end on is beware of extremes. Even though, um, even though all is an experience ultimately, and there's no right or wrongs, um, you may as well just use that to make sure that your experience is not disproportionately crazy. So, if you're the guy that's going to wear a tinfoiled hat and hide under a mountain or something, that may be a bit extreme. If you're the guy that's going to go climb up the 5G posts and put your head next to the emitter just to say, "Ha ha, you see, 5G is not affecting me. I'm 5D, blah 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 blah," that may not be a very clever thing to do either. And so, just um, uh, given what is happening to us today, given coronavirus, given all of this stuff, you see that we're at the end of a paradigm. It's like, when we moved from horse carts to cars. It didn't happen instantly. It's not a paradigm shift that happened instantly. And you still had a few horses that were shitting all over the streets um, as cars started to appear on the road. But those decreased and this increased. And so this is just a metaphor to say the paradigm shift between from materialism to spirituality to the realization of oneness to starting to behave like a global organism to transition into another dimension, open up the gates to the barriers, the consciousness barriers that we put between us and other consciousnesses from around the galaxy or the universe. All of these things will come in gradually and will wipe out and will wash away 5G, will wash away the current debt based financial system at its own pace. But if you're the kind of guy that is going to go in the street and protest against horse carts, maybe that's not the cleverest thing to do. Horse carts didn't disappear because people manifested against them. It disappeared because people started buying cars. That's all. So if you just change your attitude, change who you are, and start behaving in accordance to your newfound beliefs and models of understanding of reality, then you're going to be fine. Just don't buy a 5G phone. Disable 5G if you have a 5G phone. Don't use it. And start, even just because of this coronavirus and the messages that it brings through, is stop this crazy rat race of always more and more connectivity, more, faster, better, quicker, everything. I think the coronavirus is also there, and this is just a side note, to help us slow down and realize how futile certain things that we were doing before, certain jobs, certain occupations were, and to focus on what is really meaningful and essential. And friends, family, spending good time, quality time with them, helping each other, all of these things that were sort of wishy-washy before coronavirus, suddenly it rings something true in people. And that's because we needed that experience to sort of wake up from this slumber or this hypnotic thing of just consuming to feel better and binge watch series to forget how meaningless and miserable and silly certain things are in our current reality. And the stop the crazy rat race is going to have a bandwagon effect on all of this, because when people come out of confinement, they're not going to go on a shopping spree. They're not going to go invade the shopping malls. Sure, maybe some will. Maybe some humans will be like, oh, finally I can go buy this dress that I was yearning for. But I think most people realize, actually, I don't even need this. I don't really need a new dress. I don't really need to spend that much money. I don't really, and that's going to completely send a long-term shockwave through the entire financial system and economy, something that will last much longer than a 2 months pause. It's just it will never rekindle with the kind of consumerism that we had before. That is my belief. And if we do, though, and if you watch the first video of the coronavirus, then let's not forget the coronavirus is just the very first and gentle contraction from Earth, inviting us politely to transition and to change our behavior, to be able to be born as a collective global organism somewhere down the line. If we don't listen to that contraction, then we'll get another one, and that may come in the form of tsunamis, earthquakes, other disasters that are seemingly happening from the outside to us. But they'll be much more violent potentially. So if we don't listen this time around, there'll be plenty of opportunities for all of this to wash away via plenty of other opportunities. Contractions actually become more and more violent and more closer together as the birth process goes on. So the coronavirus is just the first very gentle invitation to say, hey guys, maybe it's time to wake up. And the next time is going to be much more, how should I say? Well, much more violent. Finally, as a reminder, I'm thinking about doing YouTube lives in the future because I'm kind of running out of topics. And I thought that maybe this system where I just do a spiritual brainstorm on a random topic when it crosses my mind is nice, but maybe you have questions. So doing Q&A, you have questions that will inspire me to respond or to comment on that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. Because here, for instance, sometimes I have inspiration. I do 2 or 3 videos and then I do nothing for a few months. So, what do you think of that idea? If you have certain questions, feel free to already post them in the comment section and just let me know if you're interested so that I don't end up doing a live for, well, just about no one. So thanks for listening for how long? Wow, more than half an hour. Hope you found this interesting and looking forward to your feedback on how I've done treating this 5G topic.